Okay, here's my response to video essay 2. The first question, your x-ray exam reveals that you have fractured your fibula. Your physician remarks, well, it's better than breaking your tibia. Explain why a fracture of the tibia would be worse than a fracture of the fibula. So the fibula is the small bone next to the tibia in the lower part of the leg. So the fibula does not bear as much weight as the tibia does. The tibia bears the weight from the femur, which supports the upper body. So if you fracture the tibia, it might be possible that you may not be able to bear weight on that leg at all due to a fracture in the tibia. An individual with very low levels of vitamin D presents themselves to you complaining of seemingly fragile bones. Explain how these might be connected. Vitamin D comes from the sun, and our body absorbs that, and this in turn helps the body absorb calcium as well, which is the #1 mineral needed in bone strength to help strengthen the bone. So if there is a deficiency in vitamin D, there is also a deficiency in calcium, which creates a weaker bone. So therefore, that's why the individual is complaining of fragile bones, because the lack of vitamin D, which also makes a deficiency in calcium. During the early years of space exploration, our astronauts who had been flown in space would return to Earth showing significant bone loss depending on how long they were in space. Discuss how this might happen and what could be done to alleviate this condition. So our bone goes through remodeling phases, and during this phase is the process of osteoblast and osteoclast. So in order for this to be achieved, there needs to be hormonal controls, and which involves calcium, and it needs to be mechanical stress, so that during the remodeling phase, whatever bone or gravity exerts force on a specific bone, remodeling helps strengthen that bone in that area. So with astronauts out of space, we already discussed that vitamin D comes from the sun. So therefore they're lacking vitamin D, which also in turns makes them lack calcium, which can make the bones become very fragile. Also, if they're not bearing any weight, because in outer space there's no gravity, so therefore there's no gravity being exerted on the body, so therefore the bones become weaker because there's no strength in those bones during remodeling. So in order to fix this problem, they can do weight bearing exercise, which is not really guaranteed or possible because they're out of space, but that's one thing. And also they can do take vitamin D supplements, and I also put that they can reduce their time in space to help reduce the amount of time that they're lacking the vitamin D or the gravity force. And these are my responses.